Are you all ready for this session? Yes. So as I said in the morning, when we proposed the idea of this heart-to-heart talk, I was a little skeptical and jittery about what Professor Amod Gupta would say, but to my pleasant surprise, he felt that this will be a nice idea and he would be sharing some facets of his personal life with us. Thank you very much, sir, for being gracious enough to share insights as well as events from your personal life. This will be a heart-to-heart talk, something like a fireside chat, as they say, where Professor Amod has given us the license to ask him anything, of course, barring things that are not to be discussed in public. This will be a straight talk about truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Little did I imagine that, I have always been an examinee and he has been an examiner. Now the shoe is on the other foot. The tables have turned and I am the external examiner here and he is the examinee. So life comes around a full circle. And we shall begin. This is something like a, if I might use ophthalmic parlance, a dilated Professor Amod Gupta examination with indentation, because we are going to probe some aspects. So without much ado, let me request Professor Amod to begin from where it all began, his early childhood and early life.
So shall I please talk like this?
Yes.
Huh? I'll get twist in my neck. So can't we face to face?
We can make that a little.
Huh?
We can. Isko thoda sa aise.
Yeah, that'll be better. So I want to look at you. Huh? Bas, theek hai. That's right. That's right. So you wanted to know about my early life.
Childhood and early life.
Yeah, so at the outset, I would like to say, I would like to repeat the same early life that I have had. I will not go for more fancier life in a metropolitan city like Mumbai or Calcutta or Delhi or Bangalore or Chennai. No way. Okay, I don't want to be born to a rich family. Okay, I have not seen anyone coming from that kind of a rich background, highly urbanized background, to achieve anything in life. So I came from, you could call it middle class. Okay, so my dad was, he had done his civil engineering from engineering colleges. Those days in India, there were very few. It was now in Pakistan, Rasool. And soon after doing that, I think he joined the Punjab. That means the Punjab as was in Pakistan and India. And he joined the irrigation department. I was born when he was posted in, I'm sure all of you have heard of Bhakra Nangal Dam. Yeah? You come from Bhakra, huh? Right. So he was working on the Nangal Dam those days when I got born. So my childhood, you can imagine the Nangal and Bhakra area of immediately after partition. And he was transferred from one dam to the other. And I have very vague memory of going to see school, which was a single room school. And I think it was by the side of the Bhakra canal, or Nangal Hydal channel, whatever you call it. That was my earliest memory, because my elder brothers were going there. And they took me along, walking along the canal side. And that memory stuck in my mind forever, because there I found the teacher who was supposed to be teaching was slaughtering a murga for having his lunch. So I got so much put off that I ran back all the way few miles back home and never went to school again. Then he got transferred. So every 3 years he used to. The maximum I spent is in 4 years in a place which is very historic town, Hansi, where I have very vivid memories. They were really my, you can say, early years. And before that, he had been in Amritsar. During the time the new currency was introduced, the digital decimal system was introduced somewhere in 55, 56. You can imagine now. I was there going in my what you call these days, pre-school.
Pre-high school?
Yeah, preschool. Not even, we didn't know what is a kindergarten, what's a pre-nursery or what's a nursery. So it was just like pre-primary. So we went across the road, we went there. Likewise, the advantage of going to 4 years I went to school in Hansi, which is a dusty old, town and semi-rural kind of setting. But school was good. And when you are in that environment, okay, average person of, say, my intelligence would always be topper in the class, because we don't know. So this is not a stigma to come from a school in a rural area. If you have little bit of it in you and your parents are literate, these children can make the most of their life, because they would always be in the top list. So I would top every year. I would be the monitor of the class, so I was flying very high confidence. And with that confidence, I came to Rohtak. I'm sure you all heard of that place. Huh? And I had the scariest incident. I used to be a kind of a weak, sickly kind of a child. Okay, and that is where they put me class 8. They put me in a school which is Jat school, Jat High School, very famous Jat institutions of Rohtak. And there my schoolmates were tall, 6 feet tall, many of them married with children. That was the Haryana of 60s, I'm talking. I got so scared, I never got back to the school. I went there for precisely one day. I said, I'm not going to go to school, because it was a setback from my schooling in Hansi to a Jat-dominated area in Rohtak. That's the heartland of Haryana, Jat heartland. I got scared, not that they were beating me up or anything, or they were telling me, but I was a small little thing. And then I went to my class 9. I did middle school as a private tutored student. 9th and 10th I did, from Seni High School. So it was, even in that school, I was topping, because again, these children all around were coming from a much poorer background than me. So I gained a lot of confidence working or growing up in an environment which doesn't teach you about competition, which doesn't teach you what you want to become in life. There's nothing like that. I don't think children now have that privilege, at least in cities like Chandigarh or Tri-City or any of the urban centers. The first day they are going to school, they are taken to the tuition, they have to get entry into the nursery class, they have to be competing with others, they are given tuitions, coaching to be able to get entry into a pre-nursery school. So I didn't face that. I was fortunate there.
I think most of us here would concur with what Professor Amod Gupta said. If you were given a second chance with your childhood, would you wish or want it to be different? I would definitely concur with you that we would go through the same childhood that we went through, because in my opinion, I also come from a middle class or even a low middle class as a child. So I feel a sense of, if I might put it this way, a sense of relative poverty really drives you to do well without trying to be too assertive. So I would concur with your
Nobody
view.
told me you have to do well. You see, the moment you say to your child, better you do well, we have all the hopes on you, the child starts losing the game right there.
True.
You,
So if we have to move on to the next question, when exactly did the thought of becoming a doctor dawn on you or get into your mind that you should choose the medical profession as your choice for life?
I think it was very simple. I remember, even in class 1, I might have been, what, 6 years, 7 years? You know, I wanted to become a doctor. And the reason was I used to have so many encounters with doctors. And we had a family doctor who could fix anything. He was a LSMF. I think his family still lives in Panipat. That's where he practiced in the old town. And I used to be a frequent visitor for one thing or the other. Of course, he perforated my eardrums both the ears. So, you know, I'm suffering because of that. I can't hear that well. But that is the one I modeled my life, that I should be able to become a doctor like him. He was the first role model for me as a small child, impressionable age, 6 years, 7 years. And I'm sure my parents got the idea that, well, he wants to become a doctor.
Right. You chose the medical profession and did your MBBS from Rohtak Medical College.
Yeah.
During that 5-year stint, thoughts of becoming a specialist must have obviously emerged in your mind. So, what thoughts crossed your mind?
I want to cut you off because you are taking a flight from class 10 to medical college. Okay. So, the intervening area, the message I want to convey here.
Please, please feel free.
See, those days, matriculation exam, and some of those people of my age would know, used to be conducted by Punjab University. We had only one university in the entire region. There was no other university. So even matriculation examination was conducted by Punjab University. And there used to be a merit list, which used to be printed in the Tribune. That was the only newspaper of this area. And if your name appeared in the merit list and it got printed, then you start getting invitations from my era. There were 4 colleges. There was a Hindu college Amritsar, Hindu college Sonipat, DAV college Jalandhar, and then there was a DAV college Chandigarh. They would write a postcard that we invite you to join our college, because those days the competition used to be who among our students in the college would be topping the university. Topper in the university. That was pass-fail was not the criteria. They wanted people to, and obviously they chose people who could figure in the merit list of matriculation exam of the entire Punjab state. They would want those students to come and join their college. So I got a college invitation from DAV college, and the professor, the principal there, Tralokinath ji, I respect him a lot. He was an outstanding teacher. So were others. They were always sportive. And you can imagine all the toppers of the region, they collect in a college. And he would tell us that you are going to top the university. The idea that I'll not be able to get a admission into a medical college, it didn't arise. The idea was, already it was there. There is no question that I'll not join a medical college. The question uppermost in the mind of our teachers was, and every opportunity he would remind, you're going to top the university. And he would tell not me, everybody. So they had selected some few dozen. You are going to top the university. A positive feedback mechanism. Now, what I'm saying is important for so many young parents here. When you are telling your child, what will you do? भीख मांगोगे, ये करोगे, वो करोगे, तुम्हें तो चपरासी की नौकरी नहीं मिलेगी. If you fail the exam, if you don't do well, what are you going to do in your life? No. This is a negative feedback. You are giving already a negative ideas to the child. Here these gentlemen were giving us a positive feedback. You are going to top. Now, you may not top the university, you may come second, third, fourth, fifth, doesn't matter.
Right.
Okay. So, getting admission in medical college was not a big deal and I got it. Okay.
Right, sir.
But being a sick child, I just passed through the medical school. But the most impressive, the teachers were not very impressive, I would say that. They never encouraged us to go to the library. They dictated notes from a notebook. Okay, they carried their notes in an old notebook, 40s, 50s notebook, and they would dictate. In 1 hour lecture, they would be dictating. Okay, it was a poor show as far as teachers were concerned. Even the clinics, I don't think I would love to go through those kind of clinics as they used to conduct. Except that, for my internship, I got an opportunity to do elective training in psychiatry with Dr. Vidyasagar. Many of you might have heard of his name. There is an institute named after him of mental health and sciences in Delhi. He was a gem of a person. He would come to the hospital at 9 o'clock and guess what? Till what time he worked without break?
Till 9 in the night? Just
Till
a
1
guess.
or 2 a.m.
My God.
You know, he had special train which used to come from Batinda belt. Train full of patients who would land early morning in Rohtak just to see him, meet him. He used to attend every patient himself, record his blood pressure, and people would say, patients would say, and I would be sitting there as a intern, you know, I would be sitting with him from 9 in the morning, no break. 1 a.m. we used to walk him down to his residence, which was almost 1.5 kilometers away in the campus, and chit-chat, and his wife would be waiting for him to have dinner, 1 o'clock in the night. I wanted to be a psychiatrist.
So, that was your first idea of...
I had, you know, so many things were offered during internship. They would offer you the seats, okay, for the internal candidates, and I opted for psychiatry.
Okay, what changed, son, from that thought of being a psychiatrist to...
So
psychiatry
what
is...
changed was a turning point, I call it, in my life. And I had appeared in very casually for the entrance exam of PGI. We used to have two, one exam for first year and another exam for second year. So it was 1+2 system. So for the first year, you know, we were in a camp, in a medical college camp, and our chief of preventive medicine, everybody wanted to come to PGI for taking this test. And he said, I can't allow my camp would flop if all the interns would to go to PGI for appearing in the exam. No. I would allow only those people who belong to Chandigarh, their parents live in Chandigarh. So we were few of us. So we raised our hands, he says, go, catch the next bus. And we came to Chandigarh. And next morning appeared in the exam. So it used to be as difficult or easy as it is these days, but it was not a big deal. And I got selected and I opted for ophthalmology, and I decided I'm not going to join it. I paid the fees, whatever, but I'm not going to join it. I went back home And I think when the last week of December, I had come to say goodbye to my parents, and I was kind of sleeping, sort of sleeping, and I overheard my father telling my mom. He had never talked to me in so many words. He used to just showcase me that this boy, he has topped in class 5, class 4, class 6. To all his people who would visit him, he would show. You know, he's going to become a doctor, he's topped. That's all. He didn't know which class I'm studying. This time, because I had announced I am going tomorrow morning, I am going back to join psychiatry. Here he's telling my mom, look, I feel so shattered. I had a huge expectation from this boy to become an ophthalmologist. And he's joining psychiatry. And that very moment, probably it is serendipity, you can, whatever you may call, that I overheard him in my sleep. And I said, I'm not going back. I'm just going back to collect my bags and books. And coming back on 31st December, and I came, 31st December 73, I came here to join PGI on 1st of January 74. And there I remained for next as many years.
I may have to deviate from the script here.
Yeah.
What in hindsight would have prompted your father to make that comment? Because he was in no way associated with medical science per se, but he felt that you
one
had...
of my maternal uncles used to be kind of an eye surgeon practicing in Bulandshahar. He had his own hospital. He was very, very popular in that area. He was a diploma from Aligarh Muslim University, and he was used to do, I am sure, a lot of cataract surgery of the kind they used to do those days. I had never seen him in the sense that I never saw him. Till date, I have not seen his hospital or where he used to practice. I have no idea. But I think because there was a choice, because I got the ophthalmology in PGI, I got psychiatry in Rohtak, easy game, and he might have been
inspired by that.
Inspired by.
Right, sir. So, when you joined PGI, at that time, I'm sure you would not have had a crystallized idea of what you want to be. Or did you have a crystallized idea that you will have to continue here as an academician? Or you just wanted to do your post-graduation and then take it from there?
You know, back then, I don't think there was the scope for subspecialization. There was nothing like that. We were all trained. You know, Professor Jain was a comprehensive ophthalmologist, trained as he was for several years for his DO and FRCS. In London, Edinburgh, FRCS. Even in the UK, even now, the basic training is comprehensive ophthalmology. The focus on subspecialties is only in recent decades, like Moorfields and other hospitals. But they expect all their ophthalmologists to go through a very rigorous 7 years training program before they become a surgeon, a comprehensive surgeon, and a physician and a neurologist, all rolled in one. I mean, they paid a lot of, they had a lot of focus on being first a physician and, you know, systemic medicine and neurology, than on a retina specialist or a glaucoma specialist. I think this concept came much later.
No, if I have to rephrase my question again, what I wanted to get out of you was, there are largely two schools, one which believes in getting a degree and then going into private practice, and another group which wants to continue and be an academician. Did you harbor either of these?
I don't think any one of us at that point of time, 74, 75, 76, had any idea what we wanted to do. There was practically, you know, no scope anywhere. We were as miserable in PGI as were people in practice. I don't see we had any great role models in private practice. In Punjab, everybody who was a professor in their medical college was practicing. So when the opportunity came, and I was jobless immediately after I finished my MS, okay, I was looking around for, and I used to scan the newspaper for any ads. And I remember going on a bus to Ludhiana city, somewhere in a very, very narrow, dirty, stinking lane, appearing for an interview in front of a Lala who was stinking himself. And he was offering me a job. And he said, my God, am I going to work here? So I said, thank you very much. It was so discouraging, the kind of practice they were doing, dharamsalas or somewhere, tiny places. No. I came back and Professor Jain offered me the senior residency. There was no looking back from that.
Excellent, sir. I would say psychiatry's loss was ophthalmology's gain in hindsight.
I don't know
judging
for
by
sure.
what all you have achieved.
Looking back, I don't know. I would have made a better psychiatrist, or I became a better ophthalmologist. I have no idea.
When you were offered the senior residency, did the seed of trying to be a consultant in PGI, may not be?
I think, in our time, it used to be very organic.
Okay.
It used to be, there's nothing planned.
Planned, okay.
That I'm going to become a consultant at PGI. It was a big dream. No way.
Right.
No way. And the opportunity came. New medical college had come up at Freethcourt. They were running their campus classes from PGI campus. Dr. Pathak was the chief coordinator or organizer on behalf of the government. And there was vacancy of a lecturer there, so I joined there. Right. And PGI opportunity came much later, a year and a half later.
Right, sir. I had written a short poem about Professor Amod, which I had given it to him. I don't remember all the lines, but I still do remember one phrase in that in which I had said, he was a teacher who never really taught. Merely watching him, much knowledge we got. So he was somebody who, there is a saying which says, the average teacher tells, the good teacher explains, the superior one demonstrates, but it's the best teacher who inspires. So he has been somebody who has inspired us, who has kind of instigated us to learn by way of his questions or leaving certain portions of the questions unanswered. So we would go and look up those. So, sir, according to you, who is a good teacher? Who would qualify as a good teacher in your dictionary?
You answered that question in your preface, that the teacher, who teaches the student to continue learning in the field of medicine. What we gain during our MBBS and MS is what we call foundational knowledge. Foundational knowledge is a basic training. And once you have that foundational knowledge, you gain experience by, practicing, by managing patients day in, day out, operating, learning from each success, learning more from each failure, so that you become wise as you grow. This, I have called it experiential learning. You learn from your own experience. I don't learn by experience of my teacher or by colleague. This is like riding a bike, learning how to ride a bike. You learn it on, you have to fall yourself, not your mentor or your person who is teaching you how to ride. So you learn by experiencing it yourself. If you fail to manage a patient, it's your choice. If you don't want to see your patient back again, which 90% of the physicians in my experience don't want to see their patient back again. And they don't learn. They don't know what happened to that patient. Whether he survived, he lived, he died, he had a, yeah. So this is where a teacher has to, kind of induce this, inspire the student to keep learning throughout life. So teach him the art and science of learning. If you can inspire your students to do that, you would be a teacher.
Right, sir. That partly answers the next question that I was about to ask you. You have been a student and a teacher yourself. So by corollary, who, according to you, would qualify to be a good student of the subject? You have partly answered that in your previous talk.
Good student is more difficult to define than a good teacher. Because good teacher, a good student or a bad student is a reflection of the teacher. You can't be a good student or a bad student. A student who has been trained not to ask any questions, not to be curious about anything, not be inspired to learn anything, is obviously not a great student. Okay.
Right, sir.
So it all depends the teacher. So student, to my mind, is a reflection. Okay.
Right,
And
sir.
you know what you would know, that God created Adam and Eve in
Right.
his reflection.
Right.
So teacher creates his own reflection in his student.
Right, sir. The other thing when we enter a surgical specialty would be, we would be hankering to enter the OT from day one. We want the red carpet to be laid out and we taken to the operation theater and we want to operate. So the question here is the dichotomy between being a surgery, that surgery is the be all and end all of ophthalmology, versus academics. So surgeon versus academics, mental dichotomy.
When I joined, they used to say, doing refraction is your be and end all. This is going to fetch your bread and butter. Okay. So then you said surgery. Surgery came a little later, maybe 10 years later, because emphasis should be on being an optician first.
Right.
Okay. So yes, true, we are ophthalmic surgeons, no doubt about it. And again, I think surgeon is the one who's a skilled craftsman, who is a skilled, if I can use, and surgeons don't mind here my using the word, a skilled technician or a carpenter.
Skilled artisan.
Artisan. Okay. So skilled, it's the more you experience, the more you hone your skills, the better surgeon you will become. Okay. But if the surgeon doesn't know
When
the
not
outcome of his, the surgeries or his utilization of that skill, if he doesn't know, if he can't tell at the end of the day, counseling the patient, how many of your patients regained vision or how many of your retinal detachments got attached, and he can't say, well, I don't know, then he's a poor, not only a poor surgeon, he's a poor academician as well. Because not keeping count of his failures, more importantly, than the successes.
Right, sir. You are undoubtedly the architect of the Advanced Eye Center, and we are all proud of that, and we are really honored to be part of that organization, although I was not there when that started. What was the prompt, that is the word in vogue now, what was the prompt that made you feel that you should embark on such a plan? That is question number one. A sub-question is, what were the hardships and the trials and tribulations that you went through as your idea, as your seed started to sprout in your mind?
I think it's all about a chance opportunity for me to visit US on a very small WHO fellowship, which subsequently they have stopped all these. They used to offer 1 month fellowship to go and observe. And in that era, this is pre-Google era. Okay, almost 40 years from now. There is no source of knowing what people are doing. And it was an eye-opener experience for me, because I saw people, really big-time guys, who were the authors of books, who were writing major articles, who were researching, who were doing such a great job. And I said, why can't we do it? They were doing all the retinal surgeries and vitreal surgeries and cataract surgeries, you name it, and they were doing all outstanding things, each running their own units or what they call services. And that gave me an idea, and the opportunity arose to work on that idea.
And as you gave food and thought to that idea,
Yeah,
you must have come up against a lot of what
No,
seemingly
those
were
ideas, these were the ideas we had to struggle with. This was a generational change. Whenever there is a generational change, you will face challenges. And I wish to give you an example. Before my time, surgeons were not using gloves. And we didn't have disposable gloves. Those days we used to have washable, powdered reusable powdered gloves. Even to get that one pair of gloves, I had to struggle. And in what way? I was humiliated. How? Tulsidas never used gloves. Professor Jain never used gloves. Who the hell are you, small tiny boy? You want to use gloves for your eye surgery? Wash your hands. Same is for the gowns. Oh, they used only one gown per day. I said, I need one gown for myself, one for my assistant, one for the nurse. Each patient needs a gown. Oh, what the hell are you talking? Those were humiliating times when you want to change. When I wanted to have an automated visual field analyzer, okay, and we wanted to shift, and that was of course a mistake, I should have kept that as well, Goldman perimeter, to an automated perimeter. Okay, and the automated perimeter was a computerized perimeter. I went to this guy big time, who was controlling all the procurement of the equipment. And I said, I want this. He said, you know what is a computer? 87, I had not heard of a computer. So you don't know a computer, you want to buy a computerized equipment? And what was his source of knowledge? His son was a bloody computer engineer in the US. And he humiliated me no end. Whereas I had prepared one-page note. He said, no. Humphrey's visual field analyzer, even then, a projection parameter, was the standard. It had become a standard. This guy says, how can you buy a computerized? So he forced me to compromise on buying a low quality, fixed LED, of course computerized, automated perimeter, because in the name of computer he won't agree. So these were some of the challenges. They would not give us the scrub, they would not give us the sutures, they won't give us anything, you name it, and they would say, no, your ancestors didn't need it, why you need it? But the more they challenged me, the more firm I was in my resolve that we are going to overcome one day. And we did overcome. And how?
Congratulations for sticking with your stand and continuing.
And the only I had told my colleagues then, and many of them still around, use your specialty. Because I had seen that model that if you want to rise fast, if you want to go, you choose a very narrow stream of specialization. You'll be able to make a big mark nationally, internationally. If you keep doing dabbling in laser bhi karunga, cataract bhi karunga, glaucoma bhi karunga, cornea transplant bhi karunga, you will not reach anywhere. So that changed. So in that we were together. that we want to subspecialize, we want to hone. So you can see the result of all these. Sharma ji is here, Jagat Ram is here, Dogra is here, Pandav when the opportunity came. So all of them, they came out of that thought that they must work in their own specific
fields. Sir, if there is one person, or if you have to put your finger on one person about whom you would like to mention, or who had a lasting influence on your career as an ophthalmologist, who would that be?
Undeniably, Professor Jain. I worked with him for 15 and a half years. Nobody lasted with him more than 6 months. Okay. What I learned with him, I think the kind of values which, if I tell you, to be honest, if I tell you work hard, Kumar, you should work hard. Come in time, Kumar. No. You have to set the example yourself. He was an example of that. He was so much well disciplined, you could set your watch by the time he came to the department. Okay. He was an example of integrity, honesty. His approach to patients who were from the poorer strata, we saw it in all. We were working with him all through in the camps. We are in the poorest of poor were operated by him with same technique, same efficiency, without discrimination between rich and the poor. So some of these values, but the biggest what I learned, which helped me move on in life, was his insistence on documentation. People don't know, those who have not been with him. When a student presented a case in the classroom, he used to take notes. He would prepare notes of that case presentation right when it is getting presented. That was the extent of his documentation. He would insist, and he would catch me so many times when I was first president. He caught me lying. He said, "Did you get a picture done?" He would remember that this patient, he got a number of pictures done, and what pictures we were doing, external photographs. And I was like, "Yeah, sir, Panditji nahi mile." No, Panditji told me you never went there. He used to cross-check. He disciplined me in documentation. I have no idea what he did with those, but several of our papers came from meticulous documentation. And I can tell you today, he was at least 20 years ahead of his times in documenting sharp observations. And I used to call him that he was the sharpest ophthalmologist. He had that third eye. He would be able to see the worth. If you imagine his paper on diabetic retinopathy and myopia, he didn't have a fundus camera. He had a direct ophthalmoscope. He never used indirect ophthalmoscope. With that, he was documenting diabetic retinopathy categories and refractive errors and trying to correlate, and he became the pioneer. Till today, nobody has been able to solve. Everybody says, yes, myopia prevents diabetic retinopathy progression, or it's a protective of diabetic retinopathy. But 60 years down the line, nobody is able to say what leads to that protective effect. People have fallen short. He raised the issue in 60s. So any number, I'm telling you, smoking. He used to tell us right while he was extracting the lens, intracap, look, this is a black cataract, this is a brown cataract, this, this fellow must be a smoker. And we used to document, and we published. Jagat Ram knows. We did even the biochemistry. It's another matter, we did not publish in good place. We published in bloody bulletin PGI, which was a shame. And when he presented this work, first time in the world, he was telling in Yale's University School of this Medicine, Ophthalmology Department, Edward Kotler, who was a great researcher himself of cataract. And he told me, he was because I had prepared some of those slides, for his lecture. And he came and he was very crestfallen. He says, when I said all these things, people laughed at me. They said, we are all smoking sitting in the classroom. And couple of years later, I think from one of the famous public health schools in US only, one lady came up with, in a big journal, came up with smoking as the biggest risk factor of cataract. I wrote letter to the editor of that journal, ki look, this is Dr. Jain who has said it first. They didn't even bother to reply to my, he was ahead of his times.
Right.
But being in a third world country, people don't pay attention to us.
My mind just goes back to Professor Donald Gass's handwritten drawings using an 90D about the evolution of macular holes, which was proved to be this true after the advent of OCT.
Yeah.
It's a keen sense of observation. Professor Sandeep Jain is here. He must be really feeling very proud of.
No, he's, till date, I can tell you, if he had all the facilities of documentation, all the imaging tools in his time, we would have been a different world altogether. We would have been world leaders. Because he had that insight, and that insight came from his training. You see, he had the privilege, we had the privilege of studying with, say, Professor Jain, who was a student of Keith Lyle or Arnold Sorsby or Stallard or Duke Elder. He had seen them working. Okay, the masters of that time, in 50s and 60s, these were the people masters. They were writing the text. So we gained whatever we learned from their student who was in the shape of Dr. Jain. But you imagine the kind of insight he would have developed
If he had access.
because he worked with those guys. They also did not have these facilities of documentation that we have. Today we can jump from the rooftop saying we have this OCT, that OCT, swap source OCT. But to think of, like what you say, pathology, Don Gass was a pathologist. He had that insight of a pathologist. Here we are talking of a physician. If you read his papers, he was the first man in the world to say corticosteroids lead to worsening of CSR, which several years later Don Gass became popular because he said so. Where Dr. Jain as president, I can show you the reference. Unfortunately, we were publishing in these journals nobody read in the world. But you are surprised when at times, only recently a Japanese author wrote a review on CSR and corticosteroids. He has very simply acknowledged. Dr. Jain in this year presented in his work on this. So what I'm saying, there was, without any facility, he saw, and this is some of the few I'm mentioning.
Right.
So I think that he sowed that seed, a worm in my mind. Documentation, follow-up. He used to, I mean, I don't know, you were a student of his student. He used to give appointments to his patients whom he used to demonstrate. A month later class, he would tell the patient to come on that specific date and time so that he'll be available in the clinic. He kept notes. I have looked at his notes. Many of the papers I wrote looking at his notes. So this at a time in early 70s and 60s when nobody in the world, in India, world is not the place, that India were doing any documentation. We used to analyze our workload of the month, how many trachomas we saw, how many corneal ulcers, what kind of corneal ulcer, what retinal problems. Every disease was dissected because he wanted to know what is the kind of patients we are seeing in PGI. So these were the ones which germinated the seed.
Now we need documentation for a whole new purpose, which is not worthy of being discussed here, legal implications. Sir, I'll have to put you on a rapid fire mode now because we have lost a lot of questions to go through.
I think we are
very briefly, your sage advice to the new generation. Crisp advice to the new generation.
I think I would suggest that new generation, they should specialize, subspecialize. There is no role of comprehensive ophthalmologist. If somebody says he can survive, then no. Not only that, they must update their knowledge and update their skills. Skills skill-based knowledge is half-life is very short, not more than 1 or 2 years. So if you said that, well, I am doing this surgery this way, it will be outdated in another couple of years. And then you'll be so far left behind, you'll never be able to play the catch-up game. So if you can't upskill yourself by attending workshops and meeting and conferences, learn to work in a group. Solo practices are out of question. I don't know how people survive in solo practice. I salute them for surviving in solo practice. These days it's impossible. You must learn to work as a team. So that team spirit is somehow not taught in the
Curriculum.
Setting a practice, practice management. I'm sure there are a lot of instruction courses, and even in Chandigarh you have a lot of people teaching those courses, in the national level, to learn the ABC of how to set up a practice or a group practice. So these are some of the things they need to,
Right.
and find time to read, find time to record your own patients. I'm not saying you document, but tomorrow, you see, if I can extend your time permitting, unless you document, tomorrow who's going to be called an expert? People are using all kind of Googling and AI tools to locate expert in that area. Who will be known as an expert? Either it's somebody like Ashok Sharma. He has been there in cornea for 20 years, but he has hundreds of papers on cornea. So the moment they put Ashok Sharma or cornea expert in Chandigarh, his name is going to be listed on top of everything. So you need to, even if in practice you need to be academically quite smart, somehow you need to be publishing not in, if I can use the word, shittish journals. You publish in peer-reviewed journals so that it is catalogued properly, it is searchable. Don't waste your time, but document so that you can counsel the patient. Patients can locate you. They have the time and money and they can move around, and they want to go to the best. They can spend money. They don't know. Today, if you ask me, I get so many of queries every day from people wanting to know whom should I consult. My role these days is restricted to this. They don't know and nobody would tell them.
True. So publish or perish would be the
Publish or perish in practice.
practice also.
All these AI tools, people are searching every day. Yeah.
Sir, a little digression, a role of family in your journey and the personal sacrifices, the family or you had to make
I think you should strike a balance. I lost out on that battle. I didn't realize that, you lose precious years of your life. No, all work and no play makes you
Jack
a
a dull boy.
Yeah. So
Right,
that
sir.
principle
Striking
stands.
the golden mean
Yes.
is important.
Yes.
Sir, any other interests or hobbies, or if I have to rephrase it, how do you spend your time these days? Because being a workaholic,
I don't have
is
time.
there a Joel Thompson effect of cooling off from a zone of high?
No, there's no cooling off. I try to catch up with, I used to paint when I was a student in medical college. The day I joined PGI, and most of the people who join PGI, they lose all their, so I was very glad to see Meghna practicing or playing sitar and some of you. So you must have a hobby, you must have something which you can devote to. So I could never catch up with that. And finally, what I do now is what I did earlier. I do academics, I help people, and people send me patients, refer them, they make PowerPoint presentation and send me. I give my best replies to them and help them to navigate their practices.
You're also helping in letting all the knowledge that you publish to percolate through the lay public.
And I'm writing these days for the Tribune. This year, 25, there was a new initiative. So every month I write an article, and whatever feedback, little feedback I get, people have appreciated because I write for laymen.
did mention that the visit abroad changed the outlook a lot.
Yeah.
Now there is a mad rush for everybody graduating to have a fellowship abroad, and then they may either continue there or come back with the degree of a foreign fellowship. Would you feel that is
That's a
necessary?
crazy idea. Going abroad means just go there for having a look, because finally you are going to treat your own patients. But how they talk to the patient, how they communicate with the patients, okay, how they work hard, okay, they would start their class at 6:30 in the morning. It's snowing outside and yet they are in the classroom at 6:30. Okay, and they're going back home at 9. They're very, very hardworking people. From whatever little I have seen and realized, they're extremely hardworking. We people claim to be hardworking, we are not. I can tell you that. So some of these systems you see, the systematic approach, you'll learn how to communicate. Best is that. Because before that, I frankly speaking, I didn't know how to communicate with the patients. I didn't know how to break a bad news or a good news, how to deal with. I used to do a great favor by seeing a patient. Not after that. But the drawback of overtraining is the mentors there would have changed, would have evolved. These guys keep repeating the same thing over and over again. 30 years down the line, they would keep doing the same thing. No, my mentor used to do this way. The mentor has changed.
Right, sir.
Everybody is evolving. We are all evolving.
Right, sir. What do awards mean to you? What do awards mean to you?
Nothing.
I've heard you getting a little angry when people wanted to pose with you for a photograph after you received the Padma Shri. You have told people to just get along with their work.
You see, if you are working for an award, okay, your sole aim of life is that I must get this. You will keep chasing it. You will never get it. But if you are working like eye center development was an award, in a sense, we were not telling people that we are doing great work. None of us, we were working, focusing entirely on within our limited means, we were doing outstanding work by any yardstick. And people realize that these guys are working very, very hard and honestly. People heard in Delhi, people heard in Health Ministry, they heard in the Planning Commission, and an offer came for developing an eye center. Now, taking precedence over a trauma center, a cardiac center, and any number of mother and child center, neuro center, science center, our eye center somehow, because we were not fighting, we were working together to deliver services under the most challenging circumstances, and people were fighting among themselves. They were getting good news about us. They said, why don't you give us a plan for eye center? So I never went, and this is what I say. If you say I'm a great man, people say he's a mad guy. But if third person who is not a stakeholder in your affairs, he says that he is doing a great job, then people listen to him. I can shout from a rooftop that I did a great job. It's not a great job unless the third man who has no stake in my well-being, who's not my friend, not foe, he starts telling people in their social gatherings or meetings, look, eyes department, they are doing a great job. That is how you start getting all the recognitions, I would say.
Thank you so much, sir. It's been really a very exciting and immersive experience talking to you, and my honor. I've never spoken to a Padma Shri awardee, and it's really my good fortune
we
to.
have Jagatram here, and he should be asking him next time.
Next time we will do an interview with. I booked my seat for the next year.
Yeah.
यही करूँगा sir के साथ. Sir, we would like to go on and on, but unfortunately, time doesn't permit us. One last question. I know you said you wouldn't like to do your childhood in any different way, but coming ahead of that, if you were given a second chance in life, would you do anything differently apart from that childhood factor which you already alluded to? Anything else that you would do differently or you would do it exactly the same.
I would love to join Advanced Eye Center as a resident now, 2025.
Sir, you are repeating what I told you. That is from, I said I should have been born 20 years later because it was
Yes.
then that you started the
Yeah,
advanced
so
eye
it's a
center.
great privilege for the generation who's training now in PGI. You know, they must realize how privileged and honored they are to work in that environment, which we didn't have the privilege. But then they don't have the teachers like Dr. Jain anymore. You know, they lack that influential people.
Thank you so much, sir. It's
Thank
been a
you.
pleasure for all of us here. I'm sure we have benefited a lot. I think we need to give a standing ovation to Professor Gupta.
Thank you so much. Oh, no, come on, these are all friends here. They all know about all these things. Come on, dekho, this is embarrassment. Huh?
May I request Professor Jagatram to kindly come up and felicitate Dr. Professor Amod Gupta, please.
Another felicitation round.
Sir, thank you so much, sir. Professor Amod, thank you so much, sir. We have to detain you for a bit. You have to give the awards to the people who won the video awards in the morning. Sir, उधर ही नीचे ही कर देते हैं. May I request the first prize winner, Dr. Puneet, to please come up and receive his award. Puneet Prashar. Pavan Prashar, sorry. Second आप है. Third किसका है? Second is Dr. Ashok Sharma himself. Ashok Sharma is always the winner, but this time by aberration he is a runner. And the third prize winner, Dr. Ramlal. Sir here? Here. Sir, thanks a lot, sir. I will be in touch. मैं करता हूँ phone.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir, for spending 1 hour at me.
Thank you.